Bayonetta 3 is an upcoming action-adventure hack-and-slash video game that is being developed by Platinum Games and published by Nintendo. The title was announced back in 2017, and since has gone through the normal development process with only slight pieces of information about the game surfacing. Let's break down all the rumors, leaks, and development news around the title. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers and articles. Also, follow me on Twitter at Fonkt2 for updates on all future games and channel updates. With that out of the way, let's get into everything we know about Bayonetta 3. The teases that Platinum Games wanted to work on Bayonetta 3 started before the release of the second title, Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2 was originally released exclusively for the Wii U in 2014, but was revealed 2 years prior in 2012. In 2013, a community member tweeted to Hideki Kamiya, who is a gaming veteran and was the game director and writer for the original Bayonetta game, and in the second game, he moved more to a supervising role and still writing for the sequel. But he has a lot of say on the title and a lot of influence, and he responded to a fan when he was asked, quote, "If Bayonetta 2 is going to be a hit, would you think about it to make a third part?" Which is something a lot of fans forget, that the story needs to be there, and the developers need to want to work on the game for it to happen. Even if it sells a lot, if the developers aren't interested, sequels or third games won't happen. In this case, Hideki responded saying, quote, "I hope so." The game went on to sell 300,000 units in the lifetime of the Wii U, but was eventually ported over to the Nintendo Switch and sold almost another 400,000 copies of the title, which puts the worldwide sales at around 700,000 copies, which is really good for a title like this with this type of exclusivity. And it's also reassuring for Nintendo to see there's still such a market for the title, even on their newest hardware, in this case the Nintendo Switch. The last story I want to cover before the reveal itself happened in 2015. The game director of Bayonetta 2, Yasuki Hashimoto, did an interview with Games Master and was asked about sequels he would like to work on at Platinum Games. And he responded, quote, "A sequel to a Platinum title. I'd have to say Bayonetta 3. I have all kinds of ideas in my head for how to expand the world of Bayonetta and even more sequels, or maybe even a spin-off." And if you've been following Bayonetta news for a while, the team behind the game series has brought up the idea of spin-offs before, and even sequels, so I don't see Bayonetta ending anytime soon, as long as the team at Platinum Games is still behind the project. Then we can jump all the way up to December of 2017, when the Bayonetta 3 official teaser trailer was released at the Game Awards. The game was announced as a Nintendo Switch exclusive, but no release window was given. The trailer itself shows a ribbon that looks like one of Bayonetta's fly towards the camera in front of the moon and tear in two. We see guns that look identical to Bayonetta's, except now the names are Whittingham Fair instead of Scarborough Fair. And fans have noticed this version of Bayonetta is missing some key features like her beauty mark, earrings, and a few other small differences. Obviously, this trailer has a theme of splitting and opposites, and some fans have even pointed to how this trailer is almost directly opposite to the very first teaser for Bayonetta 1 in terms of themes and ideas, including how in the first teaser for the first game she was able to control the battle and easily win and looked very confident, and in this newest title she looks lost and she ended up losing this battle. There's obviously a lot to unpack in this teaser. I'll link a Reddit thread below that has a lot of depth and conversation about the issue if you want to read more about it, but it is very interesting, and that for the most part covers all the basics of the reveal event itself. If we move on, for the next few years, the studio remained relatively tight-lipped about the project overall, but has given a few details here and there. The first detail we got came from Eurogamer in April of 2018. Atsui Inaba and Hideki Kamiya were at a Reboot Develop 2018 talk, and the duo said, quote, "Bayonetta 3 represents a turning point for the company in how they make games." Eurogamer says he didn't explain further what they meant, but they did say that Bayonetta 3 would be a linear core progression action game, which once again is nothing new for the franchise, but Platinum wanted to do something new by adding new gimmicks and new ways to play the game. The direct quote continues on saying, quote, "Bayonetta 2 was a fantastic title, and they need to make sure this is leaps and bounds above that. They know that the fans expect crazier, better, tighter action games. If they're going to put out Bayonetta 3, it's going to have to raise the bar." Once again, nothing is too surprising, but they are taking this franchise even further. And once again, the developers were quiet until February of 2019. During a Nintendo Direct presentation, a 10-second update was given on Platinum Games in Bayonetta 3. Nintendo acknowledges that they know fans are curious about the title, but fans can rest assured that the developers of Bayonetta 3 are hard at work at the title. And while this isn't the most exciting update, it is an update nonetheless and reassures fans that the game has not been cancelled, even though by 2019, it's been 2 years from announcement to this news, and with hearing very little about it, some fans were rightfully concerned. Also, this ties to a bigger idea that most likely this game was just announced very early in the development process, so it will most likely be many years from reveal to release, and the trailer was mostly made to get fans excited about it while they started development and worked through what this game would actually be. Then we can jump to May of 2019. The Video Games Chronicle was able to interview the head of Platinum Games, Atsushi Inaba, and he teased more information about Bayonetta 3 and the development process for the game. He stated that with Bayonetta 3, the studio is moving away from an orthodox development process. The game's development team has learned enough from creating the first 2 games to improve on its approach. With Bayonetta 1 and 2, we had basically an orthodox development process, at least for us. We did stage 1, and then stage 2, then stage 3, and built up the drama and pacing chronologically. For Bayonetta 3, we can say that we learned enough from making the past 2 games to change our process in a way that's different to what I just described. When asked to clarify if these changes were only related to the development or something players would notice when they play Bayonetta, Inaba said, quote, "Maybe the players will recognize this as well, and that's all the hints you'll get." The article closed with VGC proceeding to see if Inaba would reveal who is directing the game. They referenced that Yasuki Hashimoto recently left Platinum Games, and once again he was the game director for Bayonetta 2. VGC was worried if he was involved with the title at the time of his departure. Inaba replies saying, quote, "Platinum has a ton of different talented directors and they're always vying for different projects. As I mentioned before, we make a lot of different games all at the same time. And so without a doubt, there's enough talent here to fill the jobs that Hashimoto represented." And he would not confirm who is directing Bayonetta 3. The popular fan idea currently is that Hideki will return to direct the newest entry in the game. Once again, this wouldn't be too surprising. He directed the first title and has been very influential in the title's development, so it could be possible that we could get a game more similar to the first one than the second. The next story also comes from the Video Games Chronicle and was in response to no more big news about Bayonetta. The studio head Inaba responded to VGC and told them players should not worry. He said, "No, development is actually going quite well. Games aren't usually done in a year or 2. It takes a while, things are going well, and I know a lot of people are asking for it." And he closed out by saying, "It's going to be a high quality title and we're putting our all into it. That is what you're seeing with the silence." And for the most part, this backs up what I thought earlier. The trailer was probably created right around the time the game was leaving pre-production, figured out what the story was, started to piece together characters, and the team was just starting full production and announced the game. Which means at the time, in 2017, the game was still years away from being finished and ready for a final release. And the team, instead of giving updates all the time, they're playing the title very close to chest so they don't reveal too many details in case they do change in the development process. The next news we got about the title weren't given until February of 2020 in an issue of the Famitsu magazine. Hideki said the development of the game is going well, and that the initial lone teaser trailer released at the end of 2017 has more hidden info within it. And with the amount of breakdowns and speculation that has happened with the trailer itself, it's not surprising that the team has stated there is a lot of hidden info in this first teaser. Even today, fans are still discussing and debating what certain visuals and clues mean for the full release of the game. The last story I want to touch on for development is in regards to the voice acting, which came in August of 2020. Gray Delisle Griffin is the voice of Jeanne in the Bayonetta games and was asked by a community member about her involvement in the sequel. They said, quote, "Completely unrelated, and I understand if you can't say anything, but curious, have you done any voiceover for Jeanne or Bayonetta 3 yet? The game's development was announced back in 2017 and nothing has been said since. Just curious if you've gotten to do the voices yet." And Gray responded saying, quote, "I haven't." If Platinum is developing this game differently than their past games, it could mean the voice acting has shifted as well. Normally, voice acting is one of the last things the company does, and they usually just put in placeholders until they get the actual actors. Another alternative is that Jeanne is not in the game, which would be equally as surprising, but I don't want to touch on that any further, so it's just up for you guys to decide for yourselves. The final stories I want to close out on are rumors and leaks that have circulated throughout 4chan and Reddit for Bayonetta 3. The leaks actually happened in 2018, but I thought I'd save them for the end of the video. As always, take these with a grain of salt. The original posts have been deleted, so I'm going over a fan's restating of the leaks on Reddit, and I would be very wary of believing these leaks, but they are interesting regardless. Also, I will say some of these leaks could be seen as a slight spoiler warning if they end up being true, so be very cautious. If you don't want anything spoiled, maybe click off the video now. The leaks start by saying Bayonetta 3 will run on the newest Platinum Games engine, which is the same engine they use for Nier Automata. But the engine has been slightly adapted to get the most out of the Nintendo Switch. And because of this, the game looks much nicer graphically compared to Bayonetta 2. The maps themselves are bigger than in previous games, and a lot are set in outer space. The chapters in-game are shorter than previous games. Multiplayer will be back in the franchise, but tarot cards are gone completely. The game also has a smaller budget than the previous two games. The environments used in-game will have a minimalist approach. In terms of Bayonetta herself, there will be less outfits than in previous games, but will add free cosmetic DLC throughout the lifecycle along with extra multiplayer-only chapter DLCs as well. The story will have a more melancholic theme, and Bayonetta will be more vulnerable in this title than in previous games. Her outfits will also, because of this, be more down to earth, and the sexual content will be toned down. The game will take place in a new universe version of Purgatorio, and throughout the story we will rebuild Paradiso, Inferno, and a new Earth to obtain the Enlightened Mind, Heart of Darkness, and Eyes of the World. Once we defeat the main antagonist in the game, it will destroy the new universe we are in, but it will restore the previous universe. Throughout the story, we will meet two angels, a young Jubileus and Sheba, before she started to rule Inferno, but their identities will remain a mystery until later in the story. A young Rodin will appear and manage the weapon craft system. The new guns are Oddity, Hero, Rebel, and Heathen, and we can assign demons to different types of weapons. We will also have to trigger the events of Genesis in order to create a new Inferno, and finally the game will have heavy astrology themes. And with this leak, fans are split. Some of it seems strange and contradictory. How is the game the best looking in the franchise with some of the biggest areas but has the lowest budget? But some of the other ideas seem realistic enough, and other statements are ones that fans themselves could have come up with based off the current speculation and tone of the teaser trailer that this game would be more melancholic. That's not surprising, and even saying it's a different universe is speculation that has circulated before these leaks. I'll link the thread down below if you want to read some of the conversation happening around the leaks too in the comments, but it's really up for, once again, everyone to decide for themselves. So what should we expect from Bayonetta 3? Well, the game at a minimum has been in development for 3 years now, but it still seems like they haven't done any voiceover or even had conversations with actors who up to this point have been series regulars. Some of the rumors I didn't cover is that Bayonetta 3 is being developed for the Nintendo Switch Pro, which is a rumored upcoming stronger version of the Nintendo Switch, which is how Bayonetta is able to get some of this extra power, and it will be a launch title. I think for sure though we will see the game in the next 2 years and probably even a release in there, so maybe we'll get more news in 2021 and a release in 2022. And I would say it's safe to assume that 2021 will be the year they start to share more details about the title, including the game director and ballpark release window. Either way, that's everything we know about Bayonetta 3 and where I'm going to end this video. Make sure to like and share, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.